Hi, this is George from Sheppard, and you're listening to Tobin Tonight.
Tobin, finally, here we are.
All right, so George, we finally got it set up, and we finally found out Newfoundland and Sydney have a very different time zone.
What time is it for you right now?
It is actually 9:47 p.m.
Ah, okay, that's the time I'm usually just getting started.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a night owl.
Okay, so am I. But I guess in my case it would be I'm a morning person, so it'd be like 3 a.m. in the morning.
Right. There's probably a few places that could be a little bit further away, but you've done well.
I want to mention, of course, that it's you and you have your youngest sister, Emma, and the oldest, Amy. How did it all come to be? How did you create this band?
Well, Amy actually had an assignment for TAFE, which is like a college over here. She was studying music, and she had an assignment that called for her to write a pop EP. So she had to kind of come up with 5 songs and produce it and release it as part of the assignment. And she was kind of struggling a little bit with a few of the songs, and she wanted me to add some harmonies to it. So I came back from Sydney, where I was living at the time, back to Brisbane, and she asked for my help. And so we just kind of started working on these songs together, and they turned out great. And we actually really enjoyed working together and singing together. So we just kind of kept it going. And over the course of the next 10 years, we've sort of grown it and developed it into this band that it is today.
Were you ever hesitant when she came to you and was like, listen, I need your help? Or were you kind of like, oh man, I don't want to help you with this. Come on, you're the musical one.
I felt like I had some musical genius lying underneath, I wanted to prove myself that I was better than her.
yeah, absolutely. That's what the oldest is there for, right? It's almost like to keep the others in the pecking order.
Exactly.
Actually, mentioning that, I like how with both of you, the youngest, Emma, after she graduated, she joined in 2011. Was that like some kind of ritual? You're like, hey, you're not ready quite yet.
No, funny story. What actually happened? So she was in high school when we started the band. We had a different bassist at the very beginning, but we decided to go to the Philippines to do some recording because we'd found a studio there that had some really talented musicians, and it was quite a cost-effective way to do it, believe it or not. So we went over there, and Emma was quite jealous that she wasn't coming on this trip. And we said, well, you got to learn how to play the bass guitar, and then you can come on these trips with us. And when we were in the Philippines, she had like such FOMO that she decided to go and do this like bass boot camp, bass guitar, where she learned how to play all of our songs. And we came back and she's like, hey, check it out. And she was like, actually blew us away. We're like, oh my God, all right, you're in.
Yeah, she was just like, she's like, oh, my older brother and sister, like, no, like F them. I'm going to show them that I'm just as talented. And then when you come back, when you come back, she's just she's like, I was waiting this whole time for you guys to come back.
That's how it went down.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because I listened to some of your songs. I've got actually like 4 of them actually on my phone that I like really love.
But, oh yeah, which ones?
I have Geronimo. I have Find Someone. I have On My Way, and then I think it's off like the 2018 album there.
Coming Home, maybe.
Coming Home. There you go. Yes, I like that one as well.
Cool.
Yeah, and I like that each one of you have this like kind of like a pop dynamic to it, but then there's certain tracks that, your vocals go over really well, and then the girls' vocals go over well in certain songs. So it's like a little bit of something for everyone, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we try not to make the same song twice. We've got like a bunch of different styles that we kind of experiment with. There's like, I feel like Sheppard is kind of 3 or 4 different bands in one. Like we've got these 4 sort of different styles there. We just keep on trying to explore and develop. So it's quite interesting for people to try and wrap their heads around.
That's what makes it so cool because like, listen, like I love bands like the 1975.
Great band.
Like they just have their own kind of sound, and like every song sounds different. And then some people get upset that's like, oh, well, they changed their sound. But I'm like, would you really want to listen to the same song over and over, but with different lyrics.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
and that's what makes, I like Sheppard for that reason, and 1975 for that reason.
Gotta keep evolving.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, because I've looked at prior interviews and some inspirations you guys have as a band and you personally, you mentioned like the Coldplay, the Beatles. Like, is that kind of who you modeled your music after?
Well, I mean, and just in the sense that we, like for Coldplay, I really look up to the fact that they've created this kind of community around their band. It's not just they've got great music, but then they're able to bring people together in a way that I've never seen before. I mean, I'm not sure if you've ever been to a Coldplay show, but people that are in that show, it feels like everybody's moving as one, and they really kind of make it feel like this big family, which is something I've always looked up to. We want to be a really inclusive band, and everyone's welcome, and we want everyone to feel safe and have a great time and respect one another. Like that's the kind of foundation of our band. All of these interesting chord progressions and melodies that they come up with. I hope to live up to something similar.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I'd love to go to a Sheppard band. Like, you guys going to tour Canada again soon, or ever?
I hope so. Yeah. It all depends on how many people we can get to the show, because like we've discovered, it's quite a far way away, and anytime we want to go anywhere outside of Australia, it really does cost us a lot of money. I want to go to Canada again so badly. We had an amazing tour there. We did Meghan Trainor, her North American tour, and we played Vancouver and Toronto. And both of those cities were absolutely insane. Canada feels like Australia's distant cousin. It kind of has this really nice vibe to it. The people are super friendly and just open, smiley. I really enjoyed it.
No, I like the compliment. I was just about to say, like, it would be hilarious if you were just like headlines on a podcast, like, George Sheppard from the band Sheppard goes on a podcast and slams Canada on a Canadian podcast. But no, that's totally cool. Yeah, and you mentioned about opening for Megan. I've also see here that you opened for Keith Urban, another great act of Australian heritage. Opened for
amazing.
Bieber, another Canadian. Of course, two different, I guess, personalities, two different kind of atmospheres. But tell me a little bit about both. Like, did they give you any help, guidance, or like anything to do with just your music career?
They're very much, yeah. I mean, they're completely different artists with different audiences and different crowds, different operations. Keith Urban was unbelievable. He was the most open, generous soul that I've ever met. And that was our first big artist tour. So that was the first time we were supporting somebody of that caliber. So it was a really important time for us as a young band. And he was just so open and generous with his energy. He would come in and talk to us in the green room all the time, kind of give us advice about the industry. And on the final night of the tour, he came in and he brought his guitar, and he wanted to know if there was a song that we'd like to sing with him on stage. So that's that's unheard of. You don't get that really with anyone else. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, like in contrast, we didn't even meet Justin Bieber. He didn't come and say hi, which is not an obligation of theirs. No, but it's just nice. It's nice that Keith Urban was that open and honest and generous.
I guess a little bit of camaraderie there too, as well, because they're both from Australia as well.
Oh yeah, of course. He'd be wanting to help out a young Australian band for sure. But then the Bieber tour was incredible in its own different way. We're playing stadiums in our home country, all around every major city in our home country, which was an absolute dream come true for us. And it was such a well-oiled, slick machine. Sound check went incredibly smooth every time. It was just like working with professionals at the top of their game. So that was a real treat for us. Before
we kind of plug the song Geronimo, I want to talk about that a little bit, because I grew up watching Boy Meets Wotld. It's my favorite show, all-time favorite show. And then when they were announcing Girl Meets Wotld, I was at that little crossroads where I'm like, is this show supposed to be towards me, or is it supposed to be for a younger audience? But I was watching one episode, and then, of course, the guy who plays Eric on the show was like, I made this promise, and all the way from the land down under, we've brought Sheppard. And I was like, oh, who are these guys? And then when I heard the song Geronimo, I was like instantly hooked. So can you tell me a little bit about getting on Girl Meets Wotld and the song Geronimo?
Yeah, well, I mean, for us in Australia, the Boy Meets Wotld, Girl Meets Wotld wasn't a super popular show. We didn't really know what it was. But when we were on tour in the States, we got the opportunity. They called us up and they said, "Hey, we want you guys to perform Geronimo, your new single on this show." And we were over the moon about it. Obviously, we're like, anything, any exposure we can get in the United States, let's go.
Let's do it.
And it turned out to be one of the biggest promotions we've done. Like, we've got so many fans just from that show, from that one episode, which, that being on set, it felt like it went really quickly. Again, everyone was so professional and made it super comfortable and easy for us, having no idea what the show was. And, the actors were so generous and they came up to us and they were so excited to meet us. So, yeah, it was a really lovely experience for us, and it ended up getting us a bunch of fans and showing our music to a bunch of people. So I'm glad that it happened.
Yeah, no, and again, I love the song, I love the performance on it, and I love how it just all tied together, because it's one of my favorite episodes, but it's a favorite episode just because of the message they're trying to portray, a little bit for the
It was a finale, wasn't it? It was like the season finale
it's
or something.
I think it's called the semi-formal. So in the episode, It's like, if you grew up on the Boy Meets Wotld, you get a little bit of a story of Jack, I'm just trying to remember the other character's name, it's like Jack, Rachel, and and Eric. So then they give you a little bit of a side story of how, Jack dated Rachel, but they're not close, but she's still close with Eric because they were more of her friends. And the young girl, of course, Corey's young daughter, is in that dilemma at the same time. And then, of course, they're at the semi-formal. And then when you guys play, I'm like, this is great. You see the past, you see the present, and then you're getting great acts in between. So it's one of my favorite episodes for all those reasons.
Yeah, right. Okay. I've never actually watched the episode.
Come on, George.
I can't, I don't like watching myself.
That's fair. It's like when I post podcasts, I don't like listening to myself. I'll skip over my part. And even when I post it, sometimes I'll say the host is shit, but the interview's great.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Kind of being exposed to your own art.
Yeah, because, when I hear my voice, I think it sounds very cool, very easygoing. But then when I listen to it on playback, it's like, who's that 13-year-old girl?
I wonder why that is.
Yeah. Who is that? What's going on here? And when I was growing up,
you sound smooth and cool to me.
Yeah. No, thank you, George. Just trying to put me over, but thank you. With Geronimo, this was your first single to be recorded in Brisbane, and it reached number 1, knocking off "Happy" by Pharrell, and it's the first one that was actually recorded in Brisbane and reaching number 1. So, come on, that doesn't stroke your ego a little bit, does it?
It's a gift and a curse. I'll put it that way.
You knocked off "Happy." People were pissed. No.
Pharrell, he was about to get the record as well for the longest number 1 in Australia. So we kind of messed that up for him. I'm sorry, Pharrell, if you listen to this podcast.
He does.
But
he
definitely
does.
A really yeah, great. Hi, Pharrell. It was such a surreal experience. Kind of going through that whole year that Geronimo blew up. Well, it's a bit of a blur now thinking back to it all. Just we were like deers in headlights. We were such a young band, and it happened so quickly that we were kind of scrambling to get it all organized properly and get ourselves around the world. And I wish it had happened with what we know now. I wish all of that had, all of the advice and experiences that I've had and learned from over the last, 6 years or whatever. I wish I could bring that back to the Geronimo days and actually be a little bit more calmer with it all.
What would you have done differently?
I think we would. It's just the fact that we've just got this operation now dialed in. We know how to release properly. We know how to tour properly. It was just a really stressful time trying to figure out how to tour internationally, because we're an independent band in Australia. We pretty much do it all ourselves here. And then we send it off to the labels internationally, and they'll decide whether or not they want to, how much money they want to put into the distribution and marketing and all that stuff. But the operation is essentially run by us as a band, as a family. So we've learned a lot about, how to organize tours and get shows off the ground and singles off the ground. Which is valuable knowledge I would have loved back then.
Now, I want to mention this too as well, because it might ruffle some feathers. George is going to hang up on me right now as we speak. But a year ago, the band took a break due to a throat injury you had. How are you feeling these days?
Yeah, much better, much better. Well, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a rough year, but it was definitely a year where I had some doubts about where the band was going to go, and I had the realization that the live shows were actually injuring me, like physically hurting me. It was just a really conflicting, confusing set of emotions for me, because it was like, this is what I was born to do, but it's also killing me. Like, I was being dramatic, but it was quite reality check. It was a huge shock for me to learn that I had this injury. It was we call them vocal lesions. So It was like a little cut that had happened on my right vocal fold from overuse, doing too many shows. I got sick in the middle of those shows, and I would have been pushing through, and the voice just inflames until it gets to a point where the membrane actually splits. It's it like a water balloon bursting, essentially.
Okay, yeah, and we don't want no water balloons bursting.
We do not. And then like, obviously it heals over, and there's like a layer of scar tissue over it, and that is what I had. And I just needed to kind of get it cut off, and then spend 2 weeks in complete silence, and then the next couple of months rehabilitating my voice. So yeah, it was this really daunting prospect that I might not be able to sing the same way that I used to, and that's why I was kind of in this mode of, well, the band's not going to be the same, and we're not going to be doing this forever, and it was a really distressing time for me. But we pulled through, and the surgery went well, the recovery went well, and we're back doing shows and currently recording the third album now. So
absolutely, and I was just about to mention, like, your voice sounds fine, because if I had to say, I'm talking to George Sheppard on the phone, it's like, yeah, I'm so glad to be here, I'd be like, do I got the right number?
G'day, Tobin.
Now, of course, you mentioned about the third album. Like, I was reading up about it, and I believe this is what you posted, that you were going to release a new song every month of the year.
That's the plan.
That is the plan. Is the plan going well?
The plan so far, so good. We've got up until... so we're currently working about 2 months ahead of a release. Okay. Which is kind of the as far back as we can be. That's like... We're scraping the deadline with 2 months out, but it's going well so far, so good. We've got all the songs written pretty much, but we need to tighten them up and keep on like recording, producing as we go. So it's very much a busy year. It's going to be ambitious, but I think we can do it. And I'd love to be able to release the album this way, just because the way that streaming is nowadays, the way the music industry has completely evolved and changed. It's almost like the majority of people won't listen to an album. I mean, our true fans, obviously, they'll wait and they'll anticipate this album. But for the majority of people just kind of flicking through Spotify, it's all about the singles and the solo songs, which is a shame. I'm an album guy, but the fact of the matter is, you can see it in the stats and the data. And people just don't listen to album tracks. No, and I agree with you. I mean, I am actually one of those people that you will probably hate for that, because when I go through your albums on like iTunes and then see which songs are like really most popular, I'll listen to them. But like, that's not saying I don't give the least ones a chance. I do, and then if I like them, I'll download it. But like, I never, and I can't remember since streaming started that I ever downloaded a full album. But when I was younger, and I'm probably going to expose myself here a little bit, but like, I had CDs of like Backstreet Boys. I had like Ashley Simpson CDs. Thanks, Mom. Christmas gift. No one ever knows until now. But yeah, like you'd get the CD and you might like 5 songs on it, but at the same point you're like, all right, I'll give these other ones a chance. But like you bought the CD, so it's like you have no other choice but to give that song a chance. So yeah, like in fairness, I can feel it on both extremes, because yeah, I'd love to have CDs and gather those up, but like if I know there's like 3 songs that I'm never going to listen to, it's like, no, I'd rather pay the $129 to but at least I'm paying the $129, George. At least I'm paying. Well, exactly. Yeah, you're buying music, which is a rare commodity. George, to close it off, would you like to play a game of Are You Canadian? Oh, okay. Let's give it a go. Well, I'm Australian, so I feel like I'm half Canadian. That's fair. Okay. Do you own a jean jacket? As in a denim jacket? Absolutely, yes. You know what I do? I have a black denim jacket. It's not your regular blue denim. But I'm gonna take that. I'll count it. I'll count it.
Can you name me 3 famous Canadians?
Well, Justin Bieber. We got Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going to go with Bryan Adams.
Oh, you threw salt in my face, man. You went with Bryan and then you didn't even mention Tobin? Oh my god. I'm so insulted. No, that's
I thought
fair.
that was a given. We're on the podcast.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to George Sheppard for coming on the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying, Aussies are just so friendly and kind. I honestly think there are more laid-back people. Can you imagine a Newfie marrying an Aussie? That's a super chill family right there. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents. Thanks for listening, and good night.